Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Vani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Tuesday, August 6th. We are coming off the worst day on Wall Street since 2022. During regular trading yesterday, stocks suffered a steep sell-off. The Dow plummeted more than 1,000 points, or 2.6%. The S&P 500 sank 160 points, or 3%. The Nasdaq tumbled 576 points, or 3.43%. Bill, let's get into Tuesday's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching S&Ps. We're up 0.75%, 0.75%. That's good. That's positive. It's a nice bounce back from yesterday. The thing about yesterday's move is, there was no real fundamental change overnight. The stuff that was out there was known. There was nothing new that hit the tape that said, hey, let's sell off these markets. Japan did recover. I mean, it gained 10%. The fact is, it, still down 2% from, the 12% loss the other day. But, the yen, came back a little bit. So that was good. The yen strengthened. The big cause for the move is there was no fundamental shift, and plus you had these Fed officials coming out, and they were talking down the sensationalized headlines that the media was pluffering out through the news media yesterday about recession. What about the recession? The Fed is behind the. They did a good job of talking it down, because the data is not indicating that. The data is lighter, but that has been expected for some time, and it's not unusual for the data to come a little lighter ahead of pending rate cuts. So I'm not really that concerned. I do think I do have a little bearish view still today, but I'm not as bearish as what yesterday's action displayed. And let's talk about this morning. We get positive earnings announcements from Caterpillar, Hilton, OC, Moores, Molson Brewing. And Uber. Uber came out with positive earnings as well. On the negative side, I see that Google did lose that lawsuit. That judge did call them a monopoly. Well, it's kind of true. Google's going to fight it. We'll have to wait and see what happens. One, thing of worry to me is, I see that Russia's top defense officials are said to be in Iran meeting with Iranian military leaders. They're discussing a strike on Israel and, what will happen afterwards. So we'll have to wait and see how that comes out. But taking a look at European markets this morning, they're all over the place. I mean, the DAX was higher, then went lower, then it bounced higher. Now it's down 0.01% or 2 points. You're looking at the FTSE. The FTSE, again, was higher, then it went lower, then it went higher. Now it's lower again. It's down 0.2%. The CAC is just lower. It's down about 0.5% this morning. The thing about in Germany, factories orders rose 3.9% month over month in June 2024. The May the number came in at a negative 1.7, but it beat expectations of plus 0.8. So that's a real shot in the arm. But France, the construction PMIs, fell to 39.7 from 41 in June, and that's not a good indication. But looking over at in Asia last night, we did see for the most part some gains. You're looking at the Nikkei. The Nikkei jumped 3,217 points. That's 10.23%. I mean, it was a sharp recovery. The yen gave back some of its recent gains, and that's really helped that market recover. China, we're looking at China. China also gained 6.59 points, or 0.23%. There's some trade and inflation data coming out in China that the market's waiting for. But in China, you saw consumer services and property sectors move a little higher. Hong Kong did fall. I mean, the Hang Seng dropped, 0.31% or 51 points. They're concerned about these Chinese economic numbers coming out. But, we're keeping an eye on oil. Oil was, lower, then it moved higher. Now it's, it's back down to that flat to lower. I mean, you got the WTI at $72.91 and Brent's at $76.20. We do have the API stockpiles numbers coming out this afternoon after the bell. But these Middle East tensions are really, cause for concern. The fact of the matter is, when we had that situation in April where there were strikes going back and forth between Israel and Iran, oil prices hit $90 a barrel. So there's a historical precedence to say that oil is going to, move higher. I just think it's, $72.88 a barrel, that, oil's going to have a hard time moving significantly lower from here, considering the rise in Middle East tensions, and I think that'll keep oil prices from falling, this morning. But that's what I have for you in terms of morning market update, Emily.
And Bill, we're trying to ride out this market roller coaster. And the way you're doing that and taking advantage of it is using your newsware and breaking it down into alerts. You're watching all of the news this morning. And as you mentioned, there's some interesting earnings, some positive results, and some to look ahead to. So why don't you give us a rundown of what is going on in terms of earnings action today?
Let's talk last night. One of the big ones was Palantir Technologies, ticker PLTR, Paul, Larry, Tom, Richard. Hey, they delivered a beat by a penny on higher revenue. You look at that stock, it's up 11% this morning. This morning we had Big Cat, Caterpillar, ticker CAT, Charlie Apple, Tom. They beat by 45 cents. Was done on lower revenue, but you look at Caterpillar, it's up 3.5% this morning. Uber Technologies, UBER, Uncle Boy, Edward Richard, stocks up 7.3% this morning. Why? Because they beat by 16 cents on higher revenue. And let's not forget Kenvue, ticker KVUE, Kilo Victor, Uncle Edward. These guys delivered a beat. They delivered a beat of 5 cents. They did it on higher revenue. That stock's up 8.25% this morning. Not bad. Upcoming this afternoon, Airbnb, ABNB, their EPS is 92 cents. Expected move 9.50%. Amgen, ticker AMGN, their EPS is $4.92. Expected move is 5.38%. And then you have Disney. Disney is releasing tomorrow morning. Now, this is going to be kind of interesting because there's a lot of heavy selling activity around Disney due to what is it? Isaac Perlman selling his 25 million shares, and of course, Triad Fund selling their 25 million share position. So you had 50 million shares at the tape, which basically brought the stock down from 110 down to where it is now. It's trading 88 now. But they had a big movie out that was confirmed by Cinemark when they released their earnings. A lot of revenue there. Stocks posed for a 7.68% move. EPS is expected to come in at $1.20. Wouldn't be streaming revenue should be very interesting. That's going to be key there. But Disney releasing tomorrow morning. That's what I have for you in terms of earnings update, Emily.
And Bill, you did mention Kenvue in there. That was your pick of the day yesterday. Up this morning, you may have given it away, but by the end of the show, we will check in with you on how that pick went. Now we're going to get to the day's economic events. You also mentioned in your opening, Bill, how Fed officials tried to talk down the frantic rhetoric out there in regards to the economy and interest rates. So it's important to keep an eye on economic events day in and day out. A little bit slow today, but Bill, what is going on in terms of economic events?
First off, hitting on the Fed comments. I mean, last night we heard from San Francisco Fed Bank President Mary Daly. She isn't overly concerned about the jobs report for July, and certainly she's not about impending recession. She said a policy adjustment is still coming sooner rather than later. She said on Monday, and there's no cause for alarm. Then you also heard from Fed Bank President, Chicago Fed Bank President Austin Goolsbee, who noted that while the recent jobs report was disappointing, it did not necessarily indicate a recession. The TV shows were all about that. They were getting any buddy on there that would say, "Hey, we're heading for a recession," on the shows yesterday, and that's just sensationalized news talk. They're about getting ratings, and so doom and gloom sells. Doom and gloom gives them advertising. But the fact of the matter is, you got to look at the data, and anybody can interpret the data any way they want. Follow the Fed. Follow the Fed. That's typically always been good advice. In terms of economic reports this morning, we got 8:30 a.m. We got the international trade and goods and services report due out, and that's really it. That's all I'm seeing on the tape today. Then at 4:30 p.m. we do have the American Petroleum Institute's stockpile estimates, for last week. So other than that, there's nothing really big hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
And Bill, you mentioned to follow the Fed and follow the data here. Instead of worrying about sensational headlines, you're looking at data and information day in and day out. You're gathering these earnings releases, you're gathering economic events, the Fed speak, and other types of news. You're looking at the facts, and that helps you with your trading day and to take advantage of opportunities, regardless of where we are on the roller coaster, up or down. You look at things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news. You're looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks, for some indications. And the fact of the matter is, I'm showing, was it 27 of the Dow stocks are higher, 2 are lower, 1 is unchanged. That's pretty good. And the FANG stocks are all trading higher except for Apple, which is down about 1%. But you look at the news behind the tape, like, Apple, I just need to point out, there's still a lot of time between now and September, but the stock typically runs in September when they have that September event. That September event is when they're going to be releasing the new iPhone and other new products. That typically causes the stock to move a little higher. So, keep looking for Apple to be able to get it at a discount. Amazon, ticker AMZN, I see that they got removed as the top pick from Morgan Stanley. Not good, but the stock's up 0.6% this morning. Then we're talking Google. I mean, Google, listen, they were called an illegal monopoly by a U.S. judge. The judge said that Google violated antitrust laws. They were spending billions of dollars to create an illegal monopoly to become the world's default search engine. Well, I mean, if you remember when the search engines came out, there was essentially Netflix and AOL. They're both gone. Did Google put them out of business? Essentially, yeah. But Google was just trying to do search, nothing else. And there are other search engines out there available. They do have a dominance. Their algorithm for search is pretty darn good. Is there some, efforts on their behalf to make sure they stay number one? Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, they do a staggering, I think it was 98% of all the searches out there. So, it's going to be hard to come up with a solution to kind of, break up, something like this, because it's really done by choice. And what are they going to give their algorithms for free to other firms? That doesn't make sense to me. But that's what I have for you in terms of FANG stocks. Moving on to Dow Jones 30 stocks, I just need to point out Boeing. Boeing shares are higher. The stocks, showing a nice gain this morning, up 1.36%. I mean, one of the things that is interesting is Spirit Aerosystems, which Boeing is buying out, by the way. Now, they released earnings last night, and in their earnings report, they also released an update in terms of their delivery issues, problems that they have, and they really feel that they got a lot of them on track, and that they're resolving a lot of these delivery issues, and that they're going to be back producing components for these planes very shortly. So, that's really helping Boeing stock out. I mean, the stock is up 1.36% this morning, so that's nice to see. In terms of merger news, Lucid, ticker LCID, Larry, Charlie, India, David, the EV maker disclosed a $1.5 billion commitment from Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. That's a nice chunk of change. Then we're talking guidance, Hims and Hers, ticker Hims, HIMS, Henry, India, Michael Sam. They raised their 2024 outlook view to 1.37 billion to 1.4 billion. The street estimate was at 1.24, so that's a big uptick. Kenvue, ticker KVUE, they backed their 2024 adjusted EPS view $1.10 to $1.20. Street has that at $1.13. That's still pretty nice. In terms of shareholders meetings, Progressive PGR, Paul Grace Richard, they're having this is Progressive Insurance. They're holding an investors relation event today at 9:30 a.m. and Fast Now, ticker FAST, Fastenal. They're going to be giving their July sales figure sometime this morning. In terms of buyback news, Builder First Source, ticker BLDR, Boy, Larry, David, Richard, their firm board authorized a 1 billion share repurchasing plan. Henry Scheer, ticker HSIC, Henry, Sam, India, Charlie, they authorized a share repurchasing increase of 500 million. And New Oriental Education, ticker EDU, Elvis, David, Uncle, they increased their share repurchasing plan to 700 million. So yeah, some good buybacks this morning. But that's what I have for you hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that Newsware delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, a topsy-turvy market to be making picks. You're doing it for us anyway. We did give a hint on how yesterday's went. So what is your pick of the day today?
I'm sticking in healthcare. I'm going with Novo Nordisk, ticker NVO, Nancy Victor Oscar. Earnings are out tomorrow morning. EPS is 76 cents. Expected move is 7.29%. Call volume yesterday was 12,693 versus put volume of 4,447. It's almost, it's not 3-1, but it's more than 2-1, that's for sure. Then you look at the call open interest, 152,816 versus 99,095. It's nice on the call side. Now the major brokers are positive on the stock. I mean, they do have good ratings on it. I do look at some of the comments throughout the quarter, and while their drug may not be as effective as as Lilly's, the fact of the matter is they spent a lot of money making sure that they have drugs for sale. They spent a lot of money in production here, so that could help it become easily available for people. And yeah, I think we're going to see a gain. The key is to get in at a good price. I mean, I think the stock could trade 127 today. I mean, that's true. And so I'm going to say 127 to 127.50 as an entry price, with it running later this afternoon as we get closer to the earnings date. But that's my pick of the day. Novo Nordisk, this ticker NVO, Nancy Victor Oscar, Emily.
Bill, using a similar playbook as yesterday with Novo Nordisk today, and coming up, we will do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, as I promised, so stick with us. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, sending it back to you.
Okay, let's see what we have happening here. Uber says having lots of discussion with AV players. Tesla, China recalls 1,683,627 cars. Got to figure out why. Uber says Q2 was a record quarter. Fastenal, ticker FAST, reports June sales up 10.5%. Not bad. Tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, we get Costco's sales data for July. Let's see. HSIC, Henry Shear, they announced a new restructuring plan. That's interesting to me because they're also doing that buyback, remember? Lumen, ticker LUMN, Larry, Uncle, Michael, Nancy, they secured $5 billion in new business trade driven by AI fuel demands. Elliott, they report a 7% stake in Southwest, seeking fundamental change on ticker LUV, Larry, Uncle, Victor. General Dynamics, ticker GD, awarded a $1.32 billion Navy contract modification. CVS, they're releasing earnings tomorrow morning. Could move $5. ABNB, they're releasing after the bell today. This is going to be an interesting one to give you a scope of how the travel industry is doing. Something to keep an eye on. Diamondback Energy, ticker FANG, Frank Apple, Nancy Grace, the company yesterday raised its full-year oil and gas production estimates by 4,000 barrels per day. Simon Property Group, SPG, they came in with a positive earnings report as well. CrowdStrike, the CRWD, their legal issues, deepened yesterday as the company was sued by air travelers whose flights were delayed or canceled. It's going to continue. It's not going to be good for them. NVIDIA, NVDA. I mean, there is a lot of talk about delays with the Blackwell chips. NVIDIA did make a comment yesterday. They were positive. They didn't really address the slowdown in Blackwell chip manufacturing, other than to say that it's still happening. They're still developing. So. We'll have to wait and see if they're able to scale that up over the next few weeks or months. And that's all I have for you this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off and get to trading today, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, you mentioned it during earnings, was Kenvue. As you told us, Kenvue reported a Q2 adjusted EPS of 32 cents. That was well above the consensus estimates of 27 cents. They reported a Q2 revenue of $4 billion. The consensus here had been $3.94 billion. You also gave us that note about their guidance during your NewsWare alerts rundown. Bill, I was watching this one yesterday. I was getting a little nervous, but this morning, as you mentioned, it is up pretty big. How did your call work out?
Well, yeah, I mean, I figured it was going to sell up because the market was just so weak yesterday, and I did throw out a target price of 18, 25 to 18.40, but because the stock opened up at $18.71, and then it fell all the way down to 18.10, and it kind of hung around there, it lingered around there, it closed at 18.19, and so I was a little bit too high on my price target, but it did fall down just like I was expecting. And then you look at the stock this morning after the earnings beat. I mean, stock's up 9.24%. It's trading $19.87, 19.87. I mean, that's a full dollar more from where it opened yesterday. So whether you got it at the opening price or whether you got in at my price target that I was looking at, you made money. I mean, Kenvue was a winner. Any way you want to look at it, KVUE. Big winner, 6-7%. Gotta like that. Gotta enjoy those big wins, Emily.
Definitely have to enjoy that, especially after a day like yesterday. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Novo Nordisk pick up the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.